Okay, welcome to this special webinar on how to beat sugar cravings. So the first thing I want to say is we're having a little bit of technical problems, as is the case sometimes when you do live online events. And the chat box that's on the page, I don't want you to use that chat box if you have questions. If you have questions, send an email to Denale at the Gabriel Method. You'll see her email address up on screen. Is it up there on screen? Yeah? Okay. So send a message to her, and then she can call in and ask me those questions. Do not put them on the chat box. It's a little bit of a technical difficulty that we're having. You will see a chat box. You will be able to enter questions on the chat box, but because of a technical problem, we're not going to be able to see it. So send the questions instead to Denley. Better than sending questions, you can call in and talk to me. So the way you call in and talk to me is you dial the number on the screen, and you press 1. And that way we know that your hand is up. Pressing 1 is the way to ask a question. Shan will be on there, and she will screen the call and she'll put it through. So that's the best thing to do, and that's always the best thing to do, is to call in and talk to me. It's so much better than asking a question, because if you call in and talk to me, I get to ask you a few questions, get the whole picture of your situation, and guide you in the right direction. Sometimes the questions that you might have, like for example, you might have a question of how do I stop eating chocolate, and the answer might have nothing to do with the answer that you think it's going to be. It's not about the chocolate at all. It might be about something that happened between you and your mom when you were 10 years old, or the stress at your work, or the fact that you need better digestive enzymes. It could be many different things. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about all the different things that can cause sugar cravings. And I'm going to go over them in detail so you can see why we have sugar cravings in the first place, and why following the approach that we lay out in the Gabriel Method will help you beat those sugar cravings. So with me over time, when I first started losing weight in the right way, by focusing on the real issues and by using visualization and addressing stress and nourishing my body, getting a CPAP machine for my sleep apnea, all these different things, when I started doing that, my sugar cravings started to fall away bit by bit. And that's the right way to do it. And then at a certain point, I did a specific visualization to kill my sugar cravings, but I don't recommend that you do that visualization in the beginning. I recommend that you do that at the very end, just to get rid of the last vestiges of sugar cravings that come from habit and addiction, rather than the other reasons why your body's craving sugar. So for me personally, I used to crave bread, sugar, starches all the time, and now I never crave them, and I haven't for over 10 years. And that's not magic or miracles or willpower. As you'll see in this webinar, it's because systematically I have addressed all the different things that cause sugar cravings. So let's talk about some of the things that cause sugar cravings. So first and foremost, typically when your fat programs are on, you have something called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causes sugar cravings. Let me explain why and what insulin resistance is. Many of you know this already, but I'll explain it real quick, and why insulin resistance causes sugar cravings. Well, insulin resistance means that the cells of your body are resistant to insulin. The same way that if you were at a concert and the music was very loud, your ears would become deaf. And so somebody would have to be screaming at you to talk to you because you can't hear because your ears go deaf. The cells of our body actually go deaf relative to insulin signaling. They stop getting insulin signaling. They stop paying attention to insulin. It's called insulin resistance. Almost everyone that has a weight problem has some form, to a greater or lesser degree, of insulin resistance. Now, when insulin resistance gets really bad, we put a label on it. We call it type 2 diabetes. But type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance are the exact same thing. It's just type 2 diabetes is a very, very severe case of insulin resistance. So why does insulin resistance cause sugar cravings? Well, when you have insulin resistance, what happens is your body produces more insulin than it needs to in order to get the job done. Now, insulin's job is to make fat, to store sugar, to lower blood sugar. All these different things is what insulin does. When you have insulin resistance, your body's not listening to insulin, so your body's producing more insulin than it otherwise would need. So you get something called hyperinsulinemia. hyper meaning elevated, insulinemia meaning insulin levels, you get elevated insulin levels. Now, elevated insulin levels are a problem because insulin stops your body from retrieving the sugar that's already stored in your cells. So we store sugar in our fat cells, we store sugar in our muscles, and we store sugar in our liver. So when you eat a meal, what happens is the sugar gets broken down, it goes into your bloodstream, and your blood sugar level is elevated, and your insulin level is elevated. And then insulin's job is to go to all the cells. It's sort of like knocking on the door of the cell and saying, hey, open up, there's sugar out here, let me put some sugar in. And it does this when insulin receptors meet insulin from muscle cells and liver cells. It gets stored, the sugar gets stored in muscle cells and liver cells in a stored form called glycogen. Glycogen is stored sugar that goes into your muscles and liver. When insulin receptors when insulin interacts with insulin receptors in your fat cells, the sugar gets stored as triglycerides. Tri meaning 3, which is 3 fatty acids. Glyceride is glycerol, which is a stored form of sugar. So one glycerol or sugar molecule binds with 3 fatty acids, and you get a triglyceride. That's fat. That's what we think of as fat. So insulin's job is to take the sugar that's in your bloodstream and store it in your muscles, in your livers, and your fat cells in these various forms. When it stores it in your fat cells, it's making fat. So that's why insulin's the fat-making hormone. Now, when you need sugar back, what happens is as you go through the day, after you've eaten a meal and your blood sugar levels go back down, your body has the ability to retrieve that sugar from your liver, from your muscles, and from your fat cells. The way it does it is it produces a different hormone that's opposite to insulin called glucagon. And glucagon goes to all those cells that stored sugar and said, let me have that sugar back. So it goes to your muscles and livers cells and says, you know that glycogen, that stored sugar that we just stored from our last meal? I want some of that back. Give me that sugar back. And the cells then give the sugar back back into the bloodstream, and that elevates your blood sugar. The glucagon goes to your fat cells and says, you know those triglycerides that you just made? I want some of that sugar back. Burn that triglyceride. Give me the sugar. Give me the fatty acids. I want that energy. And in this way, through the action of glucagon, your body can keep your blood sugar stable when you're not eating. And if your blood sugar is stable when you're not eating, then you're not having sugar cravings. The problem is this. When you have insulin resistance, your insulin levels stay elevated, which means that after your blood sugar goes down and your body needs sugar again from the places that it's storing it, from your liver cells, from your muscle cells, and your fat cells, when your body needs that sugar again, then typically your body's going to have glucagon do its job and retrieve sugar. It can't do that. And the reason it can't do that is because your insulin levels are still elevated. And your insulin levels are still elevated because your body produced more insulin than it needed to because you were insulin resistant. So you still have insulin in your body even though your blood sugar levels are down to 0, and that's a big problem, or very low, and that's a big problem. So what happens is insulin stops your body from producing glucagon. So insulin says to your body, don't produce glucagon because I'm already still in fat storage mode. As long as there's insulin in your body, you're in fat storage mode. Glucagon is fat burning mode and is sugar retrieving mode. And your body is not going to be in fat burning mode and fat storage mode at the same time, which means that your body's not going to produce sugar, insulin and glucagon at the same time. So if insulin's in your bloodstream, which it is, because you have elevated insulin levels because of insulin resistance, then your body won't produce glucagon, which means that you can't elevate your blood sugar naturally through retrieving sugar from your cells when your blood sugar goes down. So that means this, that after you eat a meal, a couple hours later, as your blood sugar goes down, you have lost the ability to elevate your blood sugar naturally. That means that you get something called low blood sugar episodes. You get a low blood sugar episode, and because your blood sugar goes down lower than it would like to, low blood sugar episodes cause ravenous sugar and junk food cravings. So you're getting ravenous sugar and junk food cravings, not because you need calories, not because you need energy, simply because via the mechanism of insulin resistance, you have lost the ability to naturally regain your, re-elevate your blood sugar, which means you've lost the ability to burn fat, you've lost the ability to convert stored sugar of glycogen in your muscles and liver back into sugar in your bloodstream. You have lost the ability to naturally elevate your blood sugar. And that's a huge problem. So you end up having sugar cravings every day, all day, usually an hour and a half to 2 hours after you eat a meal, or if you've gone too long without eating, you end up getting sugar cravings simply because you've lost the ability to elevate your blood sugar levels naturally. Now, there's no coincidence that you're having sugar cravings and you're not burning fat easy, because insulin is also stopping your body, as I said, from burning fat. Insulin will not let you produce the hormones that burn fat. So because you have elevated insulin levels, you've lost the ability to burn fat, and you're getting ravenous junk food cravings. It's a vicious, vicious cycle that needs to be broken. So the first thing we do at the Gabriel Method is we seek to reverse insulin resistance, because when you reverse insulin resistance, that is, when the cells become more sensitive to insulin, it's like your ears going back to normal. The next day after a concert, you can hear fine. You want your cells to be very sensitive to insulin. It not only helps fight and reverse type 2 diabetes, but you regain the ability to keep your blood sugar stable, so you don't get low blood sugar episodes, you don't get sugar cravings, and you regain the ability to burn fat. It's the greatest thing in the world. So the very first thing we do is seek to reverse insulin resistance. Now that is a big question. And here's where the whole mind-body aspect of it comes in, because when you're talking about sugar cravings, people are going to give you all kinds of handy-dandy tips to get through the sugar episode by behavior modification and being strong and whatever ideas they have to get you through the episode, but it's not addressing the real issue. So the first real issue we have to address is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, what's it caused by? Well, excuse me? Okay. So I'm just getting texts about questions that we're getting. So Denale is getting questions now. People are emailing her questions. So remember, don't put your questions in the chat box. We're having a technical issue, so we can't get access to the chat roll. Don't put your questions in the chat roll. Email your questions to me, and we'll take a break in a minute to answer those questions, or better yet, call me and talk to me. You get to talk to me in this email, in this webinar. So what are the things that we're doing at the Gabriel Method to reverse insulin resistance? So the first thing we're doing is we're having more omega-3 fatty acids. Now, we talk about this all the time. Why do I talk about this all the time? Omega-3 fatty acids reverse insulin resistance. Why do omega-3 fatty acids reverse insulin resistance? They make the cells of your body more sensitive to insulin. Every cell of your body is covered with a layer of fat. It's called a lipoprotein bilayer, or a phospholipid bilayer of fat. And that layer of fat protects the cell, and it keeps everything out, but it also interacts with the hormones. Now, when you've got the wrong kind of fat, the cell becomes very rigid, and it doesn't interact with the hormones properly. The omega-3 fatty acids is shaped and bent just the right way that it allows permeability and insulin reception and hormonal receptivity. Very, very good for you on so many levels, because it's not just insulin that we have a problem with when we have the wrong fat. It's receptivity in all aspects of all types of hormonal signaling that causes imbalances. So we're regaining that balance. Omega-3s are also anti-inflammatory. And one of the other things that causes inflammation, in addition to stress, what causes insulin resistance is also inflammation. We are dealing with mental and emotional stress, because that causes the stress hormones and the inflammatory hormones that cause insulin resistance. We're eating more live food because nutritional deficiencies cause insulin resistance. So everything that we're doing is to help reverse insulin resistance, so you regain the ability to keep your blood sugar stable, to burn fat, and you don't get sugar cravings that are the result of low blood sugar episodes that happen from insulin resistance. So that's job one, and we're doing it in lots of different ways. Sleep apnea also, the reason why I talk about sleep and sleep apnea all the time is because it causes insulin resistance. The next reason why we have sugar cravings is something called leptin resistance. So leptin is the master hormone that regulates your body weight. The way that your brain knows how much fat you have on your body is by the action of the hormone leptin. Leptin is the master hormone that regulates your body weight. So what happens is leptin is produced by your fat cells. So the more fat you have on the body, the more leptin you produce. If you've got a lot of leptin swimming around your bloodstream and your brain can register that leptin, your brain's going to say, wow, we've got too much fat on our body. And your brain's going to do a bunch of things to reverse that. One of the things is it's going to make your tongue more sensitive to sweet foods so that sweet foods taste too sweet. So you actually lose your taste for sweet foods when when your body's functioning right and there's too much leptin in your body. It speeds up your metabolism and produces more thyroid. Your brain tells your thyroid to produce more thyroid hormone. So everybody tells me, I've got a sluggish thyroid. My doctor says this and my doctor says that about my thyroid. That's because you've got a problem with leptin signaling, as we're going to talk about. And leptin also tells your cells to become very sensitive to insulin, so you can reverse insulin resistance by having proper leptin signaling. Now, the problem with leptin and leptin signaling is that we can also be leptin resistant. That is, the part of our brain that registers leptin and how much fat we have can also be leptin resistant the same way that our cells can be insulin resistant. Now, if your brain is leptin resistant, it can mean, and this happened to me, that you can have 200 pounds of excess weight on your body, and your brain is going to be acting as if you have zero fat on your body. So if your brain thinks you have zero fat on your body, you're going to be hungry all the time, you're going to be craving junk food all the time, and you're going to be storing in fat storage mode all the time. That's the result of leptin resistance. Once you reverse leptin resistance, it's like your brain, imagine this scenario for a second. Imagine you've got 200 pounds of excess weight on your body. Your brain thinks you've got zero excess weight on your body, so your brain's always forcing you to eat sweets and sugar and slowing your metabolism, et cetera, et cetera. And then one day you wake up and your brain all of a sudden is no longer leptin resistant, can fully identify how much leptin you have on your body, and all of a sudden your brain goes, oh my God, we've got 200 pounds of excess weight on our body. Imagine what would happen. Well, I'll tell you what would happen. What would happen is exactly what happens to thousands of people that I talk to that say, I don't know what's wrong with me, I'm just not that hungry anymore. Basically, your brain has reversed leptin resistance, your brain knows how much fat you have in your body, and your brain wants to lose that fat, and so you're not that hungry anymore, and you don't get sweet cravings anymore. So another way to reduce sugar cravings is by reversing leptin resistance. Now, it just so happens that almost everything that reverses insulin resistance also reverses leptin resistance, because the same things that cause leptin resistance also cause insulin resistance. So mental and emotional stress, inflammatory hormones, nutritional famine, having the wrong fats in your brain cells. So all the different things that we talk about in the Gabriel method reverse leptin and insulin resistance. Now, when you reverse leptin and insulin resistance, you have gone a very long way to reducing sugar cravings. In fact, I would say that sugar cravings will never bother you again if you reverse leptin and insulin resistance. And we do that with all the different suggestions that we make in the Gabriel method. It's not a mistake that we work through emotional traumas, that we treat sleep apnea, that we work on getting healthy fats, live foods, healthy proteins, finding alternatives to processed foods. Now, what's the problem with processed foods? Like when you have processed grains and sugars, you know that I'm always trying to help you find alternatives to processed grains and grains and sugars. So the reason why I'm always trying to help you find alternatives to that is because when you eat processed food like bread and table sugar, it elevates your insulin levels through the roof. You get what's called an exaggerated insulin response, and that exaggerated insulin response causes insulin resistance. The same way, again, if you were at a concert and the music was very, very loud, your ears would get deaf to the music. Well, when your insulin levels get too elevated from processed food, then your insulin levels, then your cells become resistant to insulin. You get insulin resistance. So all the suggestions we're making are geared toward reversing leptin and insulin resistance. And when you do that, your blood sugar stays stable so that you don't get sugar cravings from low blood sugar, and your tongue's very sensitive to insulin, your metabolism speeds up, all these different things, or your tongue's very sensitive to sugar, your metabolism speeds up, all these different things happen to make you no longer crave sugar. And that's why I don't crave sugar anymore. There's some other reasons, and we're going to talk about them right now. But for the most part, the reason I don't crave sugar anymore is because I've reversed these hormonal conditions by looking at all the different things that cause the hormonal conditions. these are hormonal conditions of leptin and insulin resistance. So if we were to prioritize this discussion and talk about what are the most important things, these are the most important things. Stay focused on the big issues of reducing stress, of working through mental and emotional issues, of keeping your blood sugar stable, eating healthy fats, and finding alternatives to processed foods, and eating more live foods. These are the most important issues that will help. Another big one is working on your digestion. Now, why do I talk about healing your digestion so much of the time, and why is that such a big consideration? The reason is twofold. One is that if your digestion is impaired, which it is for most of us because of processed foods causing tears in the lining of our intestines, which causes something called leaky gut, and because of processed foods killing all of our friendly bacteria in our stomach, and having our stomach overrun with unfriendly bacteria, and getting yeast and parasites. Now, leaky gut and yeast and parasites both cause sugar cravings. Why? Leaky gut causes sugar cravings because it causes inflammation in your body. The leaky gut means that there's tears in your intestines, and that's from certain medications and processed foods. There's tears in the linings of your intestine, and that means that undigested food is going into your bloodstream, and because it's undigested, your immune system treats it as a foreign body. It causes an inflammatory response. The inflammatory response causes leptin and insulin resistance, because that's what inflammatory hormones do. They cause leptin and insulin resistance, and you get this vicious cycle that causes sugar cravings. The yeasts and candidas cause sugar cravings too, because that's what they live off of, and they basically overrun your body, and they start to become in control of your body, and you become a host for trillions of parasites that want sugar. So the parasites are causing sugar cravings, and that's why I talk about focusing on digestion so much of the time. So in these different ways, and the reason why we've laid out all the different things in the Gabriel method is not a coincidence, and it's not to give you more work to do. It's because every single one of them, in turn, reduces sugar cravings. Reversing leptin and insulin resistance, healing digestion, all these things change the hormonal signaling in your body so that your body it becomes like a naturally thin person. That's really what we're trying to do, is become like a naturally thin person. Now, once you've worked through all these issues of helping your body regain the ability to keep your blood sugar stable by reversing insulin resistance and regaining the ability to burn fat, helping your body become less hungry and less craving sweets, and your tongue becoming more sensitive to sweet foods by reversing leptin resistance, and helping regain the friendly bacteria in your stomach and repair the leaky gut so that you don't get inflammatory signals and yeast and candida that cause sugar. Once all these things happen, the sugar craving should go away. And even if they don't go away, the sugar should not be causing too many problems for you, because you're not going to be craving it that much. And when you are, your body can metabolize it better. So all those things should be fine to reduce sugar cravings. There's one more thing that you can do that's very effective for killing sugar cravings, but I do not recommend that you do it until you've gotten to this place already and to see if you still need it. The reason is because if you try to do it before that and you haven't addressed the real issues, maybe you'll eliminate your craving for sugar, but then you're going to have a craving for donuts, because you haven't addressed the real issues. And then you eliminate your craving for donuts, and then you're going to want pizza, simply because you haven't addressed the real issues. It's like Jesus says in the Bible, if you silence them, the very stones will cry out. In other words, if you eliminate one specific food that you're having a craving for, you're going to have another one, because the issue is not the craving, the issue is that you haven't addressed the root causes that are causing your body to want to hold on to fat in the first place, and that's the leptin, that's the hormonal signaling that's causing the leptin and insulin resistance. That's why I say first focus on that. Then you can do this one other thing. Now, this one other thing is a visualization technique that's extremely powerful for killing junk food cravings. What you can do is you can imagine yourself eating the food that you have a craving for, and then while you're having that craving, you can imagine a negative situation happening, something negative, disgusting, repulsive happening. And your body will no longer crave that food. I stress that food, not necessarily just sugar in general, but that food. But it's very effective to do as a last residual. And the reason is because because even after all these things are said and done, we can become addicted to foods, especially processed foods. Processed foods are manufactured by companies that have trillions of dollars or multi-billion dollars at their disposal. And if you think about it, the processed food industry is a trillion-dollar industry. There's no question about it. They know how to make foods addictive. And so the foods that you're eating, you're addicted to even once you've addressed these issues. So this type of visualization is great for killing a specific addiction. So let's say you're addicted to a specific type of chocolate cupcake. So in your mind's eye, you can imagine yourself taking a bite of the cupcake and biting into it and seeing that in the inside of it there's maggots crawling around, and then spitting it out and getting disgusted and throwing the cupcake on the ground. Or you can imagine that the chocolate is really dirt and not chocolate, or something even more repulsive, and spitting it out. Our brain doesn't know the difference between a real and an imagined experience. They've done studies with many different studies that show that when you visualize something, your brain thinks it's actually happening. So when you are, especially when you're in a deep state, like in smart mode, when you're in a relaxed state, like that I put you in the visualizations, your brain becomes very receptive. Now, when you imagine having something that you don't want to have, or that you're attracted to right now, and you imagine a disgusting, repulsive thing happening, you will lose your attraction to that very, very quickly. So it's really effective, but as I say, you don't want to do it until you have addressed the real issues. But it's a great, great technique. It's so simple to do. Once again, you imagine yourself taking a bite of the food, looking at it, and something repulsive. Maggots are inside of it, flies are on it, it's actually dirt, a bird pooped on it, whatever it is, something that's going to disgust you, you spit it out in your mind's eye, you throw it to the ground. Do that for a day, 2 days, you will not be able to look at that food anymore. That's effective. Not addressing the real issues, though. But what it is really effective for is breaking specific addictions that you've acquired by processed food, the manufacturers of processed food intentionally trying to get you addicted to their foods. So that's where it's really effective. And so I don't recommend you do it until you've gotten to that place where you're not craving it. Another really good technique is tapping. Now, in about 3 weeks' time, we're going to launch our video, our documentary that we just created on tapping for weight loss. And in doing so, as part of the launch sequence, I interviewed about 10 authorities on tapping, and some of them gave me some really, really good strategies for reducing cravings for different sweets. So watch those interviews that I did. I'm not a tapping expert, so I'm not going to lead you through them, but about 5 or 6 of those, of the 10 interviews that I did, and they're all going to be free aired over a 2-week period. Watch those interviews. There's some really good tapping sequences for eliminating sugar cravings, so I recommend that you try those too. So in all these different ways, by first eliminating and addressing and eliminating the real issues, by nourishing your body, healing digestion, reducing mental and emotional stress, then by using visualization and tapping afterwards to get rid of specific addictions and specific cravings, you can very easily get rid of cravings. I, in fact, did this visualization technique at a certain time. I did this visualization technique at a certain point in my weight loss. After the first year, I was losing weight at a good clip, and about every 3 months, I chose a food. First it was sugar in general, then it was bread, then it was grains in general, then it was chocolate, and specifically, every couple of months I chose a food, and bit by bit, I no longer became attracted to it, and now it's been 10 years, I'm simply not attracted to those foods. And what happens is your system runs so much better as a result. So that's the way to eliminate sugar cravings, by first addressing the real issues through everything we talk about in the Get Run, and then using this specific visualization technique that I talked about. Now, we will take questions. If you want to call me, press 1. Otherwise, let's bring Den on, and she has a couple of questions for us. Hi, Den.
Hi, John. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So far, I've received 3 emails, but I've got some other questions that I'll ask as well. So
Okay.
I'll get started with those, and I'll just keep an eye out while I'm talking to you. Bernadette asks, how would I know if I have insulin resistance?
Yeah. So the signs that you have insulin resistance are, number one, that you're craving starch, craving sweets, carbohydrates, junk foods in general. that you're tired and crave sweets an hour to an hour and a half after a meal, that in the afternoons and late evenings you crave junk food and sweets, that it's very hard to burn fat, that you're tired frequently, that you go through this cycle, this blood sugar yo-yo cycle throughout the day where you're not hungry, then all of a sudden you're starving for sugar, then you eat some kind of junk food and you have some energy, then you're starving again, then you're exhausted and tired and starving for junk food an hour and a half later, and you're going through like this throughout the day, then for sure you have insulin resistance. And you'll feel it start to go away when that cycle goes away, where you're not craving the sugar as much, when you eat meals, you're not tired and hungry afterwards, when you have more energy in the afternoons and evenings. And when you're hungrier in the mornings and not in the evenings, then you'll know that those are clear indications that insulin resistance is going away.
Okay, thank you. Judy has 2 questions. I got Mark Hyman's book, but I freaked out at how extreme his proposal for a 10-day sugar fast was. Yeah. It seems quite contrary to your recommendations. What is your view?
Well, because the reason why Mark Hyman makes the recommendations he does is he believes that if you go 10 days without having the foods you're addicted to, you will no longer be addicted to them. That is true, but you may still be insulin and leptin resistant, so you may still crave those foods even though you're not addicted to them anymore. So I think that his program is great down the road once you've addressed the basic hormonal issues that are causing the problem. And it'll be much easier. And what'll happen anyway is you're going to trend toward a eating regime that's similar to that in the future anyway. I'm sure that my diet's very similar to the one he recommends there, because I simply do not crave any processed foods anymore, any sugars anymore, none of these things, just real foods. It's not an effort, it's very, very automatic, and it's simply because I'm not addicted to the foods and I don't have the hormonal problems. So once again, before you try anything like Dr. Hyman's approach, try to address the real issues, the mental and emotional stresses. Everybody wants to talk about food, nobody wants to talk about the emotional issues, but those are often the real issues, the digestion issues. Deal with these issues and then revisit his approach a few months down the road when you find yourself in that situation where you have more energy, less sugar cravings, and you're just not that hungry anymore.
Okay, thanks. Judy's other question is, do you think we should give up all grains, even whole grains eventually?
I absolutely feel that grains are totally an unnecessary food that only causes problems in your body in so many different ways. But I don't want you to give them up until you're no longer craving them. So I want you to follow this approach of nourishing your body, healing your body, reducing inflammation, dealing with mental and emotional stress, healing digestion, getting checked for sleep apnea if you have it, slowly detoxifying and slowly getting off of using these visualization techniques to remove addictions, and then see where you're at. Because I can promise you, I never crave any type of grains. And if you think about it, thousands of years ago, before they invented grains, nobody ever ate grains. People went their whole life. For who knows how many years we were around as humans before they invented grains. People went their whole life without eating grains. Now all of a sudden we think that it's an essential food. We put it on the food pyramid. You know, it's at the bottom of the pyramid. And I heard one expert recently say that if you want to look like a pyramid, eat the food pyramid. And really what that means is that all grains elevate your insulin levels, cause insulin resistance over time, and also cause leptin resistance. They make you become a sugar burner and you end up losing the ability to burn fat. The best thing to do is to eat foods that help you burn fat, and you want to be a sugar maker, not a sugar eater. That's the ultimate, that's what you want to strive toward, meaning that your body will make sugar out of the stored sugar in your body rather than eating the sugar. So you want to be a sugar maker, not a sugar, or really a sugar burner, but a sugar maker, not a sugar eater. But that takes time, so just be patient, stay focused on adding and on health. That's why the approach that I recommend is more sustainable. It might be slower in the short term, but it's more sustainable in the long term, and it will lead to quicker weight loss at the very end because you get better and better at burning fat. So stay focused on adding really healthy foods, doing the emotional work, healing digestion, and doing the visualizations. Then you will get to the point where you will no longer be attracted to any type of grains, I promise you. I mean, when I look at grains right now, rice to me, it's really tasteless. Oats are tasteless. It's just we put all kinds of stuff in it. We put sugar and berries and all these things in it to make it taste good, but it's really a tasteless it tastes like packing really, and all it is just sugar. So, yeah, you don't need them. It will be infinitely easier for you to lose weight if you don't have them, but rather than take a deprivation type approach, which is not sustainable, take the approach I'm outlining, which is adding health and nutrition, and that is more sustainable. Okay?
Okay. Thanks. Jacqueline asks, she just feels addicted to the process of eating. I don't mean just craving a certain type of food. I mean just the act of putting something in my mouth. When I'm sad, I eat and drink. When I'm angry, I eat and drink. I come up with all sorts of excuses as to why it would be a great excuse to eat and drink. It's much easier to be chewing on something whilst I'm trying to deal with everyday stresses than trying to find some time to myself and sit and meditate for 10 minutes. Sometimes life just does not let you have that opportunity. But how do I stay sane and not eat?
Yeah.
Where does my support and stress release come from, if not from food?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do, Jacqueline, is I'd say when these tapping videos come out that I'm launching in about 3 weeks, please watch all those tapping videos and follow along with them, because some of them have some really, really super great. Especially, I would recommend that you watch Brittany Watkins, the interview that I did with Brittany Watkins. She's got an incredible technique for in the moment when you're just feeling like eating, doing a real quick tapping sequence to address the real issues. And that's what I like about her sequences. It doesn't just get you through the moment. It actually leads you back to the real issue of why you feel lonely, why you're feeling stressed, why you're feeling sad, why you're feeling depressed. It takes you back to that moment. So definitely watch the interview. It's coming out in about 3 weeks that I did. I think April 7th we start launching it. So from April 7th to April 17th, watch those interviews, specifically Brittany Watkins. Follow along with that. She's got a really, really great sequence. The other thing I would say is that the whole issue of eating for all these different reasons does go away when you deal with the stress and emotions in your life. It does take time. So be patient. Continue to do the work that you're doing, specifically visualizations in the morning and evening, and over time you will feel less stress. You will feel like your life's developing a positive momentum, and you just will feel less attracted to food. So part of it is this conditioning that you're talking about. Another part of it is the hormonal response. The hormonal response will go away, and then once that does, the conditioning will go away much easier.
Okay, thanks, John. Sharon's just sent me an email. I'm pretty clear of processed foods and sweets that are not on the Gabriel Method radar. I still tend to eat beyond satisfied, and I'm not realizing that I'm doing that. Is there something I can do or a way to think? Thanks.
Well, again, this is the opportunity to call in and talk to me, because I got to know what's going on in your life. Because all you're telling me is that your brain's still leptin resistant. Because when your brain's leptin resistant, it's not going to listen. Leptin sends a signal that says we've had enough to eat. It's not going to listen to that. So that's all you're telling me. And why are you leptin resistant? There's a million different reasons. And I need to talk to you to understand. And that's what the benefit of these webinars are, is that you get to talk to me and I get to ask you questions to find out what's causing the leptin resistance. It could be some trauma that happened in your life when you were younger. It could be trauma now. It could be stress now. It could be digestion issues. You might have sleep apnea. All I know from the question is that there's an issue. And I can help you with that issue if you call in and talk to me. I could try to understand it, but in general, even if we don't talk, everything that we recommend in the Gabriel Method, from reducing stress and emotional issues, nourishing your body, all these different things will get to a place where you won't be overeating, because your brain becomes very, very sensitive to leptin, and so your brain, as soon as you've had a little bit to eat, your brain goes, oh, that's enough, and you stop eating. So that will change in time.
It's Sharon who we talk to regularly, so I'm assuming that's why she emailed it in, but I'll make sure she gets that message.
Okay.
Sandra has asked, I found a sugar-free chocolate that is sweetened with maltitol.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this sweetener, and is it okay to eat? Is it better than sugar?
It's not better than sugar, no. It's not a good sweetener. It's not better than sugar, so no. That's not, the best sweeteners are stevia, and a combination of stevia and coconut palm sugar are not bad. A little bit of erythritol and xylitol, which are sugar alcohols that are not bad, and there are chocolates that have all of those various combinations of those different sweeteners: stevia, coconut palm sugar, erythritol, and xylitol in different degrees. You don't want to have too much erythritol and xylitol. They are natural sweeteners. but you don't want to have too much of them because they're highly processed. The best one, again, is stevia. We've got we've got one caller. Is that right, Aaron? Okay. So, all right. Well, as soon as we know who it is, we'll bring them in. Okay, Dan, do you want to ask another question?
Yeah, yep. I'll ask. Galen asks, what kind of detox would you suggest for a sugar addict?
I would suggest trying to understand why you're a sugar addict. That's really what I would want to know. So if you're a sugar addict because you're having a brain addiction to processed foods, then yeah, something like trying to go off of those processed foods for as long and breaking that addiction would be really effective. If you're a sugar addict because your body wants to hold on to excess weight as a form of protection, then that's what I need to address. I need to know why your body's holding on to weight as a form of protection. We need to address that. Then you won't be a sugar addict anymore. Reducing the real message of this webinar is reducing or no longer being addicted to sugar means addressing the real issues wherever they are, and that will trickle down to no longer craving sugar. So I do need to understand what your situation. So the first caller we have is Chris.
Yeah, hello, John.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, John. Yes, I'm Chris. I'm just a few hours north of Noosa. Okay. I've been a member of the Gabriel Method dating right back to the first programs you ran, and sort of my general diet is pretty good, except I've retained the craving for carbohydrates, more so than sweets. Yes, sweets, but I've still retained the craving for carbohydrates. So whilst I'm sort of more healthy, I still really haven't lost any weight. And I was interested in the leptin resistance, just to find a little bit more of that, and also with the omega-3. Just on the quantities of that sort of each day. Like I have sort of omega-3 in the morning with a smoothie, often with Inca Itchy oil, which is very high in omega-3. But whether I need to sort of dose up on omega-3 a lot more than that. And the leptin resistance, I'm not quite clear on. I don't have any particular great stresses in my life. But obviously, I have something that stops me losing weight.
Yeah. How old are you? How old are you? Chris? Chris?
Yes?
Yeah, how old are you?
Oh, how old are I'm 68.
Yeah. How much weight do you want to lose?
I want to lose 10 to 12 kilos. I weigh a bit over 100 kilos, about 100 kilos. Earlier in my life, I've always had a sweet craving. Earlier in my life, when I've sort of gone on really savage diets, I get much below 90 kilos and start to be gaunt. So I really just want to lose 10 or 12 kilos.
Okay. Okay, so the carbohydrate issue that you're talking about, the first thing that comes to mind for you in your situation is stress. Now, you may say that you don't have a stressful life, I don't know, but there's obviously some stress going on somewhere. Now, the stress could be a digestion type of thing too, because it can be a mental stress or a physical stress. But typically for males, what happens over time is stress starts to accumulate and cause this leptin and insulin resistance. Are you active at all?
Yeah, relatively active, yes, John. Relatively active, yes. But I should really do more specific exercise in a day, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And do you when you say specific exercise, like what do you do that you're just very on the go type of person?
Look, I live close to a beach up at Bargara, which is near Bundaberg. Yeah. I'll often go for a walk along the beach, a bit of a swim. I'll do a bit of bike riding, but I haven't sort of been doing that for some time now, okay, as a deliberate daily exercise.
Okay. All right. And then
generally, I'm not a sit-around person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in your situation, basically, a male who's fairly active and just has a little bit of weight to lose, I would suggest a couple of things. One, I would suggest a specific exercise routine for you because it will benefit you tremendously. And the specific exercise is, if you like riding your bike, I'd like you to ride your bike however long you ride it, 10 or 20 minutes. But I would like you to do a couple of periodic sprints, just 10 or 20-second sprints, maybe going up a hill a couple of times during that bike ride. And then afterwards, I'd like you to do some push-ups. Because
Right.
the strength training, push-ups, and maybe some upper body strength training, and I'm really only talking about 10 minutes of upper body strength training, really ideally 10 minutes of bike riding followed by 10 minutes of upper body strength training 3 times a week, will do a number of things that will reverse leptin and insulin resistance, because that's really what we need to do here, because you're not talking about a lot of weight. And typically what happens to men over time is the muscle starts to atrophy, and atrophied muscle causes insulin resistance. The muscle loses its sensitivity to insulin when it atrophies. Does that make sense? And if you
Yes, it does.
and
Yeah.
if you don't strengthen that muscle, for all men over time, their muscles atrophy once they get over 50 if you don't strengthen them. So strength training
Right.
for a man over 50 is a great way to reverse insulin resistance and leptin resistance. So the sprinting will help reverse leptin resistance, actually, and the strength training will help reverse insulin resistance. So between the two, this sprinting on a bike, just for 10, 20-second sprints periodically, don't kill yourself, but just do a little bit, a couple of times during a 10-minute bike ride, and then 10 minutes of strength training upper body, and doing that 3 times a week will yield you really, really good results.
Right. Okay, John, I'll give that a go. The other problem that I had that I was trying to get on top of right back from the step-by-step program was just a sleep problem, which, I had tests for sleep apnea and everything. But generally, I'll sleep for 3, 4, if I'm lucky, hours, then wake, then I'll sleep for about another hour and a half, then wake, then sleep and wake. So it's just broken sleep that I've been to lots of specialists. I haven't been able to get on top of that. So that sort of adds a little bit of a general fatigue to things.
It definitely would. Yeah.
But possibly the exercise will help with that.
Yeah. And then are you doing, let me just ask you also, are you doing any type of visualization? Listening to the visualizations?
I've got to get back to visualization, John, because I spent so long, like going right back to the step-by-step, spent so long because you're saying that unless you get on top of your sleep problems, you'll never lose weight. I understand that. I spent a year seeing specialists about different aspects, trying to get on top of that. And during that time, I sort of lost the enthusiasm a bit for the visualizations because I'd heard them over and over again, and in the overall mix, I wasn't getting anywhere. But I've got to try and get back to all that, I guess. I
would recommend that you listen to them, or I would recommend that you start learning meditation, because meditation will help with your sleep. So for example, for me, in the middle of the night when I can't sleep, I sit up and meditate for a little while, and then I get into a state where I go right back to sleep. So meditation is really, really great for reducing stress and for improving sleep. So either visualize, and then when you're doing the meditation, you can do your own visualization. So learning a meditation technique would be awesome for you also.
Right. Okay, John, I'll get onto those. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Okay, thanks. Take care. Okay, then we've got Bernadette from Melbourne. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Bernadette.
Hello, John.
How are you?
I'm having difficulty hearing you. Hello, John.
Okay. Oh, you got
I'm good.
you got to mute your computer, Bernadette. Put your computer on mute because you're getting an echo.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Hang on. Okay. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
You're still a bit quiet. But anyway, I've been following the Gabriel method all last year, and it took me a long time to get a handle on the meditations. But I think, I never lost any weight. I'm 47. I've got about 25 kilos to lose. I try to do your meditations twice a day, and I think I've made a lot of changes with my diet, and my skin and my nails show that. I eat reasonably well every other week. But I think it comes down to a lot of lifestyle, chronic stress in my life that's causing me to overeat, particularly late afternoon in the evening. And I just wonder if perhaps I'm just not doing it right, or do I need to do more meditations? Do I need to amp it up 3 or 4 times a day?
Where are you in menopause? Do you have signs of menopause?
It's a little bit tricky. I'm 47, and last year for 12 months I was having Depo-Provera injections for 12 months, and I didn't realise that they actually caused me to gain 10, 12 kilos in a year. So that was 5 months ago. I'm not quite sure that my system isn't back to normal yet, so I really have no idea where I am in that regard.
Okay, all right. That's something that you need to look at, and I would suggest there's a couple of experts that I interviewed in our GM shows. One is Marcel Pick, and the other is Dr. Sarah Gottfried. They're a great resource for female hormonal problems and transitioning through menopause correctly. So that's just something I would look at. But as far as your afternoon cravings, that's something I'm going to talk about. So what time do you end up getting cravings in the afternoon?
Well, I just end up thinking about carbs, and I might eat quite a good dinner, but then it's...
What time?
What time?
Yeah.
Probably as I'm starting to cook dinner for the kids, and then I'm starting picking. By the time dinner's ready, I've probably eaten a meal by then already, picking at everything, and then I'll eat dinner, and then I'll be going on into the night, ice cream, bread, whatever. What time
do you make dinner?
Usually around 6.
Okay, and when do you eat lunch?
About 1, and then I usually have a snack at about 4.
Okay, so what do you have for your snack at 4?
Lately, I make these like chopped chia energy bars, a recipe that I got off the internet made with dates, or I'll have nuts and some fruit as well.
Okay, you have that.
It's usually pretty good.
You have that at 4. Okay, so this is what I'm getting from you. If you're having that at 4, and you're craving, and you're eating before dinner, and then you're craving sweets all after dinner, my guess is that the injections that you were getting are still at play, and there's a serious, definite hormonal issue here. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting. And are you a member of the support group?
No, not any longer.
All right, can you just email my assistant, Den? The email address is there. If you could email her, and I will send you a link to a couple of shows and a couple of experts. I'd like you to watch those shows and contact one or the other, tell them your situation, and I think that you need to be treated by them in the short term to get this hormonal issue set, because it sounds to me like there's a serious hormonal issue that's happening right now.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to discuss was exercise.
Uh-huh.
Up until I discovered that I was putting on weight last year due to the hormone injections, I was exercising really well, and then I was totally defeated, so I stopped exercising entirely, and now I can't make myself move. There is nothing I really enjoy doing. My favourite thing is sitting on the couch, scrolling through the internet on my iPad. There's nothing I want to do. I can't make myself.
I know where you're at. It's not a good situation, and it was brought about by these hormonal injections. You've got to get this reversed. And it's going to affect how much energy you have, it's going to affect how much you want to exercise, it's going to affect your sugar cravings, it's going to affect everything. So you have to get this addressed. Okay? All right, let's start there. Email my assistant, then we'll stay in contact. And then we can talk some more, you and I can talk some more once you've been treated by an expert. Okay?
All right, so I email Denali.
Please email Denali, yeah, and I'll get you some information.
All right, thanks very much.
Okay. Okay, we just have a couple of minutes. Okay. Can we bring Dan back in? Yeah. All right, let's bring Dan back, and we just have a couple of minutes, just 5 minutes left, actually. But see if we can just answer whatever other questions there are.
Hi, John.
Hi, Dan.
Hi. Ruta asks, I have a concern about fruits like bananas that are high in sugar. I really like the banana and peanut butter thing. I don't crave sweet things, but this is my favourite dessert. Would that be probably raising my blood sugar too high and too fast?
The combination is not the best in the world, but try this. Try banana, tahini, instead of peanut butter, tahini, which is sesame seeds, crushed ground sesame seeds, and chia seeds. That combination is a good combination because the chia seeds, you're getting your omega-3s, and also it's got lots of fiber and protein, and all those things keep your blood sugar stable really well. So try banana, peanut butter, and chia seed. No, banana, tahini, and chia seeds. So it's delicious, and it's from a hormonal perspective, it's much better. It'll keep your blood sugar stable, much more so, and also give you the omega-3s that you need.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Shivani asks, during PMS, I crave sweet things as well as eating late at night. Do you have any ideas that would help me? I don't have PMS. When I don't have PMS, I'm fine. I don't crave the sweet things and I don't eat late at night. I consciously know it's wrong, but my body mind don't really seem to know which one.
It's really
wants it. What can I do?
It's really, really common. What I would get is healthy snacks. So raw chocolates made with either stevia, coconut palm sugar. Go to your health food store and find some other raw things that you can snack on, like flaxseed crackers, chia seed crackers, or vegetable crackers, or things that are sweetened with healthy type of sweeteners. Have those on hand when you're having your period, and then you'll be able to eat something that's not causing too much problems. So rather than fight it, just make sure you're getting the choicest, healthiest sweets possible.
Okay. Andrew asks, there seems to be an increase of so-called leptin-boosting supplements appearing on the market.
Yeah.
One that I've noticed is called Leptoburn. What's your theory on these?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of any of those for many, many reasons, because they don't address the real issues. And as soon as you start messing around with your hormones when you have not addressed the real issues, then it's a Band-Aid approach. And because it's a Band-Aid approach, it usually has a backfire. So I haven't seen anything out there that convinces me that there's any merit whatsoever to taking anything for either reversing leptin resistance or boosting leptin levels. And boosting leptin levels is worse, by the way, because if you boost your leptin levels, it just makes the leptin resistance worse.
Okay, thanks. Judy's just emailed me, just a quick question. I found a product at Whole Foods, sprouted chia and flax seeds. It's easy to use. Is it doing me any good?
What is it? Is it a cracker? If it sprouted chia and flaxseed cracker?
She just says sprouted chia and flax seeds.
Oh, it's just, yeah, okay.
Easy to use. So
yeah. If you're using it as a supplement, then yeah, that's great. That's fine. You know, if you're putting it on if you're putting it on your mueslis or salads, yeah, fine.
Okay. There's a question that I want to ask. It was one of my emails, but she couldn't hear very clearly, but just wanted to ask how I break the cravings and sugar lifestyle, which obviously you've addressed. So I just thought maybe at the end, if you could just maybe reiterate the best way to beat sugar cravings in step form.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Cam and also, yeah.
Okay, so, and we'll wrap up the webinar there because it's just we only have about a minute left or so, but basically, the way to beat sugar cravings is, number one, address the real issues that are causing the cravings. So the real issues are leptin and insulin resistance, which are caused by stresses in your life. They're caused by stresses in your life. So they're caused by mental and emotional stresses, causing hormonal fluctuations in your body. They cause leptin and insulin resistance. They're caused by digestion issues. They cause inflammation. They're caused by yeast and parasites causing the sugar cravings. They're caused by the addictions from the processed food manufacturers, specifically engineering the food so that you'll become addicted to it. So in all these different ways, by learning how to manage stress and working through emotional issues, by healing your digestion, by eating more real foods and more anti-inflammatory foods like omega-3 fatty acids, the sugar cravings can go away. Then once you don't have any sugar cravings left, once you don't have real cravings left, if you have specific foods that you might have been addicted to, you can use the visualization technique that we talked about in this webinar, and you can go back and review it. You can use that visualization technique to also remove the specific cravings that you're having. So that's it. I don't know if we go another, we do have one more caller, Aaron. Can we go another couple of minutes? Or? Okay. All right, we'll go a couple more minutes and take Maureen from Newport.
Hey.
Hello?
Hello, it's Maureen.
Hi.
Hello. My question was just, it's not really about sugar cravings per se, but about beans or legumes.
Yeah.
If they're a good source of fiber and protein, but I didn't know because they're high in carbs, if that's going to create problems with the leptin resistance or insulin resistance. Yeah,
they do. They cause leptin. They're starchy, and the starch causes the insulin resistance. But if you sprout them, the starch goes away, because what happens is the friendly bacteria that cause the sprouting of the beans and the legumes actually eat all the starch. That's what they live off of. So you're left with something that's full of fiber and protein and even more nutrients than it had before, and more bioavailable also. So I eat a lot of sprouted chickpeas and mung beans and all types of things, and I put them on my salads in large quantities, and you're getting a really, really good food that's got really... Yeah.
If it's canned, if they're like low, they're organic and they're low sodium and they're canned, and I rinse them, and then how do you sprout them?
I don't think you can sprout beans once they're canned, but buying sprouts is really cheap. People, if you go to Whole Foods or any supermarket like that, sprouts are probably cheaper or as cheap as canned beans and legumes. They're really cheap, and so I recommend that you just look for the actual sprouts in the stores that you're shopping at.
Okay, well, yeah, you can get a ton of alfalfa sprouts and bean sprouts, but you can't get like black beans, kidney beans, garbanzo beans.
Yeah, then I would buy them. Then I wouldn't buy them canned. I would buy them in bulk, and then I would sprout them by soaking them overnight in water, and then you put them in a sprouting jar, and then you add a little bit of water every day to rinse them, and then it takes a couple of days to make sprouts.
Okay, that sounds good.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's a great way to go. Yeah, cool. Okay, good luck.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that's all the time that we have. Thanks everyone for joining us. And if you have any other questions, email Danile and I'll follow up on that. Again, just a reminder, do watch those tapping interviews that we're going to have in a couple of weeks. They're really, really informative. They're free to watch, and some great information. I interviewed 10 different experts, and you'll see them all there. So definitely watch those, and focus again on the big picture issues, because the big picture issues are always the things that are causing the sugar cravings. The sugar cravings are a symptom of a bigger issue. So stay focused on the big issue, and then once you've gotten to the point where you feel like the big issues are under control, use the visualization technique I talked about. It'll kill whatever specific cravings you have. So that's it. I hope you have a great couple of weeks. And those of you that are in the UCE or in the forum or in the support group, I'll speak to you all real soon. And anyone else, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to talk with you. And that's it. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.